Hi, here's another video from mostly for my GCSE and A-level electronics students. Anyone else is, of course, welcome to look at it, but some of the things I'm going to mention might be a little bit specific. By the way, if you're one of my students, please do subscribe. It's going to help you a lot. And also, if you're anyone and you just think the video is quite useful, just give it a thumbs up at the end. Okay, so let's have a look at this presentation. I'm not just going to read, by the way, I'm not just going to read the presentation to you. Hopefully, I will actually explain some stuff as well. But we're looking at the analysis of the problem. You should, by this point, have identified a problem that you need to solve. And so we're going to do the analysis. We're here. And then the analysis would lead on to writing up a performance specification. But that will be in another video. So do bear in mind that we are doing electronics, okay? We're not doing product design, so we don't need to talk about the aesthetics of the circuit or the materials that we might use or the resources, the sustainability, whether it's going to... I'm not saying ignore sustainability, I'm not saying be wasteful, but you don't need in your write-up to include anything about sustainability or cost or any of those things, unless you feel that you really want to. And you won't get marked down for doing it, but there's not actually a requirement to do it. Not that I see when I look at the mark scheme anyway. So it's not product design, so don't do this, okay? Stop this if you're doing it unless you particularly want to. So if you look at the mark scheme, it says we need to make a clear statement of the problem, which includes relevant analysis. And when I see relevant, I'm thinking relevant to the design of the electronic circuit, the technical design of the circuit, how it's supposed to perform, what it's supposed to do, not this fluffy stuff about the aesthetics and style and things like that. Okay. By the way, it's not worth a lot of marks, and your analysis should help you understand the problem that you have identified. Okay. So let's move on. So here we are. We're in analysis, this middle bit. So let's take an example because it makes it easier for you. Let's imagine that we've identified a problem that older people who may be hard of hearing could have, or just people who are also hard of hearing, whether or not they're old, may have missed the occasional doorbell because they just didn't hear it. Okay. So your analysis could, and you can have any format you like. Don't feel constrained by this because I'm not allowed to dictate the format for you anyway. But it's quite common in design-based projects that people use who, what, why, where, and when in their analysis. So, for example, and in fact, I'm going to give you a more detailed example on a slide coming up. We need to think about and analyze. Don't just like state it's old people, it's deaf people. You need to analyze that. It's old people, therefore, and then you talk about maybe their requirements that would be their technical requirements, not the requirements like, I don't know, that they want to buy it in a shop or what, not that sort of thing. We need to, like the technical performance. Anyway, I'll show you an example of that in a minute. What the problem actually is, you should be able to identify a problem and then you can elaborate to explain more about that problem. Why that problem exists. In this particular case, the technical problem is that it's just not loud enough. Maybe they're too far away. Maybe they're so profoundly deaf that they wouldn't be able to hear it. Whatever. Okay. Where did they experience a problem? You might be thinking, well, why would you need to say where? Because Mr. Pitsy has said that we're not really interested in like the aesthetics of it. So what's it matter whether it's used in the living room or whether it's used in a shed or whatever? Well, that might be relevant technically because, say, for example, if you were saying that your product was going to be used like in the lounge, then you have easy access to, say, power. If it was going to be used in a more mobile way, then battery, or if it was going to be used like mobile for a very prolonged period, you can take this into a desert or something. You're not going to need a doorbell there. But if you were doing something like that, then perhaps you might need it to be solar powered or whatever. Okay. When might it be used? And now that's also relevant, like, for example, with outputs. Some outputs work, like some displays work really well in bright conditions or in more subdued lighting conditions, whatever. So you need to think about like when it might be used as well. And also it's relevant, like, if you're going to have an alarm going off at night, it doesn't need to be as loud as it does perhaps during the day, and also, the where, if it's a busy place, then it might need to be louder, that sort of thing, okay? Needs to be some analysis. So who, what, why, where, when gives you loads to talk about. All right, so there's lots of potential for analysis there. Then you could also analyze what sort of inputs. Well, with the doorbell, presumably you're going to need someone to press the doorbell. Okay, press that doorbell. You're also possibly going to need some way that the doorbell could be temporarily suspended or paused. Like if you've got people, I don't know, Halloween visitors that you don't want to hear them anymore, so maybe you could pause it, or maybe there could be like a go to bed thing when you press it, then, or afternoon nap, so you press it and then it's then it's like more subdued or something. So these are all sort of possible things. So whatever inputs you want. The processes, well, the processing presumably is going to be based on what current mode you've put the doorbell into, and then the process of like someone pressing the doorbell, and then so it's going to process that information and then make the decision of whether or not it's actually going to play the chime or whatever it is. The outputs, so what type of outputs? Is it going to be loud speakers? Is it going to be buzzers? Is it going to, there's lots of different outputs. I mean, actually for a doorbell, it might also, because maybe hard of hearing, it might be, maybe you can have a buzzer, like, actually vibrating alert. You might have lights going off. There's a whole host of things you could do. And then also you could come up with an initial, and I really mean initial because I think that it's too early. You can't do everything at once, but you might like to have an initial idea, very, very high level system block diagram. For this doorbell thing, you might have system block diagram identifying some inputs, some processes, and some outputs possible. And I think you really should state that this is my, off the top of my head, this is my current analysis, very superficial perhaps, of what it might possibly involve, without going into any depth and leaving yourself the opportunity to actually change your mind later as you go through the process of development, because that's what's going to happen, believe me. Okay, and then next you would come up to a design specification to state whether it's going to flash lights and how frequently the light's going to flash and things like that. But that's another stage. So how much analysis should you write? Well, my students, if you're from another school or another teacher, then do listen to them. But for my students, I think that at about one slide, because we tend to do it in PowerPoint, one slide on A3 is about the way to go, and that should be fairly dense text. I mean, it doesn't have to be thousands of words, but if all you've done is just really increase the font so it's so big and taking off the page, then you just haven't got enough analysis. Okay, I reckon you should use headings, and it's this isn't just something that I've just come up with. This is like out in the domain. This is worldwide. Everyone knows who, what, why, where, when. I think it's been going since almost prehistory. Okay, so if you wanted to use some of those as your own headings, I think that's going to be perfectly fine. And it's flags up areas of your slide to make it easy to read and easy to mark and just easy to understand. So do use headings, make your text bold or whatever. And then, you could leave yourself a corner of the, if you split it into quarters or something, maybe you could have a quarter for inputs and processes and outputs. Perhaps the system block diagram maybe could be a quarter as well, something like that. Okay, but there's no one set thing which I would say that it has to be. In fact, I'm not allowed to say that anyway. Okay. So do analyze though, and I'll show you in the next slide, and then that will be it. Okay. So you've got to analyze. Don't just say, it's going to be used by all people, and that's it, because there's no. How does that help you? It doesn't help you at all. Okay, it doesn't help you understand the problem if you just say it's going to be used by all people or deaf people. There's got to be someone else, and so what? That's what you could do. So don't just state the facts. So here's an example. Okay. So, and by the way, don't copy this. All right, this is out there on YouTube. Example, probably reading this or possibly reading this. If you do, like and thumbs up. Yeah, and subscribe if you like. But if if you copy this, it's just not going to be acceptable, okay? So anyway, here's an example. So my user is old and hard of hearing. Look, that's just a statement of fact. Remember, don't just state facts, you've got to analyze. So therefore, so then you're going to have that linking word therefore, and so what, require a circuit that is simple to operate. Okay, so if it's simple to operate, they don't want like some really complicated keypad, do they? Maybe, it's got to be like just like simple, like maybe 2 buttons or something like that. Simple to operate, or maybe automated in a way that like in the evening it detects that it's dark, so then it just like goes quiet or whatever it happens to be. They're simple to operate and overcomes their impaired hearing either through a very loud alert. Now I'm saying either, I'm not saying exactly what we're going to do. I'm saying that here's an option that I could consider, either through a very loud alert, look, and then which could annoy other people. So there's some analysis there. So you're saying, look, yeah, very loud, that's great. Yeah, get their attention, but it's going to be really annoying. Probably be annoying for the person and also the person that they're living with or the neighbors or whatever. Or a supplementary visual alert. For example, a flashing light, maybe the buzzer could go off and a light could flash, or there could be a vibrating alert or whatever it happens to be. A flashing light might work best in the evening. So don't commit yourself to anything. Just say, like it could do, and you can like investigate that. So my circuit may need to react to light conditions and therefore select the most of what's going to be on there. It's hidden. Let's just get out of there and therefore select the most appropriate outputs. So, for example, if your circuit may need to react to light, then maybe that's something that you can have in a future subsystem. But you don't want to commit yourself because later on you might think, oh, no, I don't want to do that because, and then there might be a reason. Okay? Whether it's technical or whether you think that you just don't need it or just run out of time, whatever it happens to be. Okay, so don't commit yourself at this stage to doing lots and lots and lots by saying, I will do this and I will do that. You can say, I may, it would be useful, that sort of thing. Okay, so that's basically it. I think my video is 10 or 12 minutes long now. So probably already a little bit too long, but hopefully that's useful. So do make sure that you analyze and that is possibly going to be giving you some useful headings or ideas that you could use for your analysis. Okay, like I said at the start, if you find the video useful, please do give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing as well. Okay, that's it. Goodbye.